What do you picture when you hear poverty?
As a lifetime Metro Detroit resident, I've always kind of been around poverty, and I've always kind of been, I don't know, I always used to take trips to Detroit with my parents, and they'd always say, like, look around and notice how lucky you are. And you can see the boarded up windows on those houses as you go farther down 8 Mile, closer to Detroit. You can see the boarded up windows. You can see, I don't know. That's what I see as poverty.
Okay. What percentage of people in poverty do you believe have air conditioning?
I'd have to say around 30%.
What do you picture when you hear poverty?
When I hear poverty, I think of last night's Cardboard City and how I froze my butt off.
Okay. And then what percentage of people do you believe living in poverty have air conditioning?
Less than 10%.
And how many people in the U.S. do you believe live at or below the poverty line?
40%.
What do you picture when you hear poverty?
When I hear poverty, I think of families with low income to the point where they have trouble stocking their shelves with food, or maybe don't have any food at all, possibly even no homes or really poor living conditions.
Okay. How many people in the U.S. do you believe are below or at the poverty line?
Maybe like 20 to 25%.
Okay. And how many people in poverty do you believe, or what percentage of people in poverty do you believe have air conditioning?
Maybe 30%.
Okay. What do you picture when you hear poverty?
When I think of poverty, I think of a lot of different things. I think of a family where the parents are working minimum wage jobs and they're making just enough to get by. I think of people that are homeless, that don't have jobs. I think of someone who's elderly and they don't have kids or family to support them, so they live off of their social security. So I think of a lot of different things.
How many people in the U.S. do you believe are at or below the poverty line?
Probably a lot more than we think. I would say at least 40%.
Okay. What percentage of people in poverty do you believe have air conditioning?
Probably not very many. Like 20%, 15% maybe?
Okay. What do you picture when you hear poverty?
I tend to picture people of a lower socioeconomic status, maybe struggling to get by on a daily basis financially.
Okay. What percentage of people in the U.S. do you believe are below the poverty line?
I'm currently taking an EDU class that has told me that about 20%, maybe more, are currently below the poverty line, but I don't know where that is, so I don't know where that stands exactly.
Okay. And last, what percentage of people in poverty do you believe have air conditioning?
I feel like air conditioning is considered to be not a necessity, so I would hope that if they're below well, not hope, but if they're below the poverty line, I would think that they just shouldn't have that. So I would assume it's very, very low.
Okay.
From these interviews, we are able to see common misconceptions that people have about poverty. According to the Census Bureau, more than 30 million Americans are living in poverty. Nearly 40% of all poor households actually own their own homes. 84% of poor households have air conditioning. 2/3 have cable or satellite TV. Only 6% of poor households are actually overcrowded. Nearly 3/4 of poor households own a car, and 31% own 2 or more cars. 98% of poor households have color television, and in 2008, the federal and state governments spent $714 billion on the means of tested welfare, providing cash, food, housing, medical care, and targeted social services to poor and low-income Americans. Even with this aid, the problem still exists. It will take a much larger effort from both the government and the public to stop the increase of poverty nationwide.